Luke Dawson drove to pick me up. The man, usually so cold and distant, let his new assistant sit in the front passenger seat. I knew right then this marriage couldn't be saved. That day, when Luke Dawson arrived to pick me up, I froze for a moment as he opened the passenger door. A young, pretty girl was sitting in the front seat, flashing me a sweet smile. "Hello, sister-in-law." The girl greeted me politely, but she didn't seem to have any intention of moving to the back. I squinted, my gaze shifting to Luke Dawson. He was focused on his phone, unaware of the brewing storm on this side. We had planned to attend an auction together today. I had been looking forward to this date, having dressed up specially for it, but I hadn't expected someone else to be sitting in his passenger seat. "Hello, sister-in-law. I'm Latina Mera, Mr. Luke's new assistant." The girl flashed a warm smile, her dimples adding to her charm. "I heard you're attending a private auction tonight, so I asked Mr. Luke if I could come along and see the world." "Don't worry, I won't be a bother." My heart sank instantly. I knew this man too well. Luke Dawson had always been aloof, keeping a distance from everyone. We were brought together through an arranged marriage. After much consideration and mutual selection, others joked that I was living like a widow. But after confirming our relationship, Luke Dawson would softly embrace me. In moments of passion, his eyes would redden slightly. He would say, "You're my wife, we are one, and you're different from anyone else." Today, something seemed to have changed. But I wasn't the type to suffer in silence. I was Isabel Lopez, someone who never hesitated to speak her mind. "Get out!" I ordered coldly, showing no mercy. The girl stared at me, stunned. She hadn't expected to be put on the spot like this on our first meeting. Perhaps my tone had been too harsh. Latina Mera was left at a loss for words. "Sorry, sister-in-law," she stammered, her voice tinged with a hint of tears as she moved to the back seat. Luke Dawson had just finished his call and looked over at us. He could tell I was upset. A look of helplessness and indulgence crossed his face. The man leaned over and fastened my seatbelt. Noticing the seat had been adjusted, I impatiently moved it back. After a few moments of fiddling, my frustration reached its peak. "This is ridiculous! How dare someone touch my seat?" The car's atmosphere grew tense, and the girl fell silent, too scared to speak. Luke Dawson raised an eyebrow, his voice calm as he suggested, "If you're not in the mood, we can head home instead." In the rearview mirror, I could see the girl quietly wiping her tears. I was getting more and more irritated. "Latina Mera, right? I'm not going anywhere now. Take a cab back. Mr. Luke and I are going home." The girl's face turned pale as she glanced weakly at Luke Dawson. The man didn't intervene. She got out of the car in a daze. Luke Dawson would never embarrass me in front of others. He always knew how to keep his emotions in check, so he suggested we go home to deal with things. This was our unspoken agreement after years of marriage. She's just a recent graduate. Why make a big deal of it? Luke Dawson pulled me into his arms. "It's the first time," I said. Luke Dawson frowned, puzzled. "What?" I looked up at him. "This is the first time you've let another woman sit in the passenger seat." He was taken aback. I wasn't bothered by the fact that the girl was his assistant. It was the seat that mattered. Everyone knew Luke Dawson was exceptional. Women were constantly vying for his attention. But he remained indifferent to all of them. He'd always stayed true to his principles. He smiled faintly and brushed my hair. "Well, looks like I've made you jealous." He leaned down and kissed me, his nose grazing my cheek. "She's just my subordinate, nothing more." Luke Dawson cupped my face and gazed into my eyes, his voice low as he promised, "I promise, there's nothing between us." Women's intuition is often spot on. Even though I had only met Latina Mera once, my instincts told me that she likely had other intentions toward Luke Dawson. I thought a cold reception on my part would be enough to put her in her place, but the next day, the necklace that was supposed to be mine from the auction appeared around her neck. Kyle, Luke Dawson's chief assistant, sent me a photo and a screenshot of Latina Mera's social media post. In the photo, the crescent-shaped diamond necklace was hanging around her delicate neck, making her look even more charming. Her eyes were puffy, her smile forced. It seemed like she'd cried all night at home. The caption on the post read, The CEO said that girls should always be strong, even when they're hurt, with some cute fist emojis and a picture of the necklace in its box. At that moment, my blood ran cold. Though I hated to admit it, I couldn't deny that I was shaken. It felt like I was watching something precious to me get tainted. It was an awful feeling. I almost wanted to drive my yellow Ferrari at 180 miles per hour and slap that girl in the face. But when I looked at my hands, I realized how ridiculous it was to let some cheap, manipulative woman get under my skin. I called Anna, the assistant at Hermes. She answered the phone, her voice filled with excitement. "Don't worry, Mrs. Isabel. I'll make sure to get everything ready. You'll have everything delivered to you today." So, before the workday was over, every female assistant and secretary at Dawson Group, a total of 46 women, received a lavish gift from the CEO's wife in Hermes necklace worth 120 yuan. While the value couldn't compare to the 2 million yuan necklace from the auction, it was fair, considering the number of people. Kyle was quite smooth about it. She insisted that everyone post the same message on social media. "Mrs. Isabel says every girl deserves the best." Fist up! Yes, my CEO's wife! The assistants, almost all of whom were in the company's gossip center, eagerly posted their pictures, smiling brightly. Some even added, "Mrs. Isabel knows how to play." In no time, the entire company knew that Mrs. Isabel had gifted everyone an Hermes necklace. Of course, everyone had their theories about the reason behind it. Latina Mera's face turned pale when she saw the necklace. She seemed deeply humiliated and rushed to the bathroom, where she took off the diamond necklace. When 2 colleagues came in to touch up their makeup, they snickered knowingly. Latina Mera, utterly embarrassed, quickly left the bathroom, her head bowed, the mocking laughter growing louder behind her. Her face flushed red as she returned the necklace to Luke Dawson, putting it back in its box, untouched. Luke Dawson had just finished a video call with his business partners when he saw the girl, clearly having cried, holding the necklace box. She stood there, looking defeated. "What's wrong?" Luke Dawson asked, his voice tinged with confusion. Before Latina Mera could speak, her tears started to fall. "Mr. Luke, please take the necklace back. I can't keep it." Luke Dawson's expression hardened slightly, sensing something was wrong, but he didn't press her. He simply watched her silently. After a long pause, Latina Mera finally spoke up, her voice trembling. "Mr. Luke, I'm sorry. I only posted that to encourage myself. I didn't think Mrs. Isabel would see it and get so upset." She sniffled, looking utterly pitiful. I had no idea she would be so angry. The night Luke Dawson brought Latina Mera home, the girl was meek and followed him, standing quietly behind him. "I had her come to apologize in person." Luke Dawson explained with a sigh. "Isabel Lopez, she's just my assistant. After what happened yesterday, I gave her a gift to make up for it. That's all." I stirred my spoon through the bird's nest soup, finishing it. "Sorry, sister-in-law," Latina Mera said, bowing deeply, her voice trembling. "This is the first time I've received such an expensive gift. I got carried away. If I've upset you, please let me know, and I'll change right away." I raised an eyebrow. "Latina Mera, right?" She glanced at Luke Dawson, as if trying to gather courage from him, and slowly nodded. I couldn't help but find it amusing, this girl, trying to challenge me. "I'm not your teacher or your boss, and I don't have time to teach you how to behave," I said coldly. "But I'm Luke Dawson's wife, so if anyone dares to flirt with my husband, I won't give her a chance to change." The girl seemed to have never encountered someone as blunt as me. Her face flushed with embarrassment, and she seemed to shrink under my gaze. "Isabel Lopez, Latina is here to apologize," Luke Dawson said quietly. He knew me well enough to understand that I wasn't the type to back down. Though he might not have agreed with how I handled the situation, he understood my feelings. He had already made his compromise, hoping I'd let go of my anger. We were both smart enough to understand each other without words. "I understand," I said, deciding to give Luke Dawson a chance. After all, he hadn't cheated on me, but there won't be a next time, no matter who it is. "You didn't need to handle a girl like that," Luke Dawson said before bed, bringing up the subject. "You should have told me first." I sat at my vanity, brushing my hair, staring at the man in the mirror. You knew I loved that necklace. Of course, I'd be upset if you gave it to someone else. I said, the words hanging in the air. It was hard to imagine that someone so perfect could be tainted. Would I still love him the same? Luke Dawson calmly poured himself a glass of cold water. She cried all night because of your misunderstanding. In the morning, I saw her eyes swollen, so I gave her the necklace as an apology. There was no crack in his reasoning. I scrutinized him, silently. 200. 0 wasn't a big deal to us. Giving it away was just a small gesture. It was about whether the person was worth it. He drummed his fingers on the marble countertop, waiting for my reaction. This was the first time we'd had a real argument because of a third party. Both of us had been raised with strong values, and we were both exhausted by this type of situation. We were both people who cared about appearances. Luke Dawson, I love you. His fingers stilled, clearly taken aback by my sudden confession. Luke Dawson, I love the pure, untainted you. That's what makes you different from others. You've never let women get too close because you have a clean slate mentality, wanting a pure marriage. I wasn't like that before, but your values have influenced me. Now, we share the same life goals. I looked him in the eye. I hope our marriage never hits a crossroads. Luke Dawson sighed. It won't. Luke Dawson is a clear-headed man. He knew I was bothered, so he made sure to give Latina Mera no further reason to fantasize. Without the CEO's backing, Latina Mera, now an intern, could only do the most basic tasks before she had the chance to rotate through reception shifts. Now, Kyle didn't even bother assigning her any shifts. I didn't give any orders to exclude her. Since Luke Dawson knew where to draw the line, I trusted him completely. However, this kind of thing didn't require my intervention. People always look for ways to climb and crush others. Within half a month, Latina Mera couldn't bear the work disparity and psychological pressure. She lost weight noticeably. The turning point came after an important executive meeting. That day, Latina Mera was tasked with cleaning up the small conference room on her own. She was on her knees, holding a razor blade, struggling to remove chewing gum from the carpet. Luke Dawson, returning unexpectedly, saw her in that state. The girl hurriedly stood up, embarrassed, sensing someone behind her. Luke Dawson's eyes were cold and piercing. His silent gaze shattered Latina Mera's remaining pride. Mr. Luke, her tears began to fall uncontrollably. She wasn't pretending or putting on an act. Luke Dawson had always been the unreachable star she admired, and now, seeing him witness her humiliation, she was ready to give up. This was the first time Luke Dawson had lost his temper. He went home, grabbed the cup of water I handed him, and threw it to the ground, shattering it. Why can't you let her go? Isabel Lopez, I've respected you, loved you, and tolerated your insults and harm toward her time and time again. Do you get some pleasure from bullying the weak? I suddenly remembered the trauma Luke Dawson had from his younger sister's suicide, due to bullying during her school years. It was an unhealable scar for him. Isabel Lopez, stop using these methods to hurt others, or I won't just stand by and watch. I stood frozen, staring at the man in front of me. For the first time since our marriage, Luke Dawson had lost control of his emotions for a woman because of something I hadn't even done. It felt terrible. It was like watching glass shatter, like spilled water that could never be recovered. Luke Dawson promoted Latina Mera to his personal assistant. At the same time, he swiftly fired Kyle, his trusted assistant for 7 years. You need to understand who you're working for, he said. Kyle, stubborn in some ways, replied, I'm working for you, Mr. Luke. In some matters, I'll contact Mrs. Isabel privately, but only for personal matters. Luke Dawson slammed the schedule in front of Kyle. Really? So righteous? Has your professional integrity allowed you to bully others? Kyle fell silent, knowing her actions had been exposed. Her face showed fear. Luke Dawson saw through her instantly. Such lack of tolerance, inability to distinguish right from wrong, and using your position to suppress others what right. Do you have to be my chief assistant? Kyle left the office defeated. The other assistants outside watched with somber expressions. Kyle, are you really leaving? Tears welled up in Kyle's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. Yeah, I'm leaving. Farewell, sisters. My marriage with Luke Dawson hit an unprecedented Cold War. He stayed at a hotel. Latina Mera came to collect his clothes. She had learned well. She was no longer as naive. She'd been with Luke Dawson long enough to know how to play the game. At this point, I just felt ridiculous. But this time, I didn't make a fuss. I accepted the situation and sat in the passenger seat quietly. Luke Dawson's expression was cold, his mood evidently low. Latina Mera, we just got back from Manhattan. Mrs. Isabel wants to see you, so I'm taking some gifts to her. Latina Mera was chatty as usual, but more refined and composed than before. It seemed like she'd learned a lot while staying by Luke Dawson's side. I didn't say anything and rested my eyes. Latina Mera seemed to notice her behavior was unwelcome and fell silent. Luke Dawson said nothing either, keeping his lips tightly pressed. When we arrived, Luke Dawson's mother seemed surprised to see Latina Mera. The girl greeted her confidently, introducing herself smoothly. She seemed to have a knack for winning people over. Before long, she had Luke Dawson's mother laughing happily. At the dinner table, Latina Mera started chatting about Luke Dawson's work-related incidents. Luke Dawson's mother nodded approvingly. Clearly pleased then, she asked about Luke Dawson's personal life. Latina Mera, ever so attentive, smoothly took over the conversation. The atmosphere at the table grew increasingly awkward. Latina Mera continued smiling sweetly, but seemed to realize her words were a bit too much. I was the one who should be answering these questions. Luke Dawson remained silent. I wiped my mouth elegantly, then said, "Mom, I'm pregnant." "Ah, really, Ching Ching?" It was huge news. Luke Dawson's mother's eyes lit up. "When did you find out?" Luke Dawson, who had been silent since we got in the car, suddenly showed a rare flicker of emotion. I raised an eyebrow mischievously. "Just yesterday. The doctor said I'm 3 weeks along."